We want to be able to track what's the business impact. Is that taking a hit or not? Right, and this helps us to make some really valuable decisions based on that data. Okay, and in this example, so we had a spike of, the response times went up to about 10 seconds or so, and we saw that there was about $50,000 revenue drop per minute through the application flowing through. But this is the kind of information that modern APM tools can capture quite easily. But I like to look at not so much the negative side, but the positive side, right? Because in the performance testing space, we're all about the improvement. Right? How much have we improved performance? And I used to love this because my first experiences with Mercury was around, we had this, okay, hands up who remembers Captain Mercury? Oh God, I don't think I've got enough t-shirts for you. So we had a program, in the early Mercury days around improving performance. So we said, if we don't improve your performance by 50%, we'll give you your money back. And so we had that program where we were actually measuring the improvement in performance as we went along. And it was awesome because it wasn't a focus on the bad stuff. It wasn't a focus on the issues. It was focused on the performance improvement. And I absolutely love that. So I think this is a really important thing to quantify the benefits because it's really valuable in our jobs because we're all about improving performance and we need to show how we've done that. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so a couple of real-world examples. This is one of our customers. I think the example here, we had something like over 5,000 nodes that we were actually monitoring in this application. We've got some customers up to about 20,000 nodes, and this is unheard of. 5 or 10 years ago, you never have distributed applications of this size, right? But we're seeing this more and more. And when you start capturing everything, so what happens when you become one of our customers like this, right? If you can't capture everything, well you can, but it costs far too much just in storage and bandwidth alone. Yeah? So you get to a point where capturing everything is not really an issue, or not really an option, and that's really where you need to really get smart about this. Okay, so, who remembers what I said? 3 key points. Smart data. What about smart data?
Can I throw? That's a better throw, isn't it?
Yeah, capture data that's relevant.
Yep.
Yes.
What's a better throw?
Capture data that's relevant. Yes.
Context.
What else? Yes, the context is very important.
He's already got one.
I've already got one.
Benchmarking.
Yeah, oh, benchmarking, yes, fantastic. Have you got to it already?
Kiss my app, Julian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I said app, right?
Yes.
Jargon, the message.
Yeah. And it's easier to be on a couch.
You might change the last 2 letters, I'm sure.
But
speed text around.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's wrap this up. So I think the whole thing about this big monitoring data, it just slows down our time to repair and it drives up costs like significantly. So I think that's a really important thing just to recognize because storage is not cheap and it might seem cheap at the start, but it's really expensive in an ongoing way, right? Okay, the second point, when we focus on disaster recovery instead of problem recovery, I think we're spending the wrong amount of effort in the wrong area. I think we need to spend more time and effort around getting problem recovery right. Because I think this is a really valuable a place for us to be spending time. And the last thing is if you've got the choice and the option, don't be a digital hoarder. So make the move to smart data. So it's going to take some time, but it's absolutely worth it. And if you want to see how you can do that, come and have a chat to us at AppDynamics. There you go. All right, so questions, answers, go for it.
How do you differentiate between all the other players in the market with AppDynamics? I mean, you said that you're smart enough, right? What are the key points?
Yeah. So that's probably a good question to come and chat with myself and Rocky afterwards. Like I love to do demos and show and tells, but I'll try and keep it vendor neutral.
So we just wanted to be a vendor neutral forum. I mean, I'm happy for you to have the conversation.
Yeah, but great question, and that's so t-shirt worthy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who was the person? What's this?
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Like you count the baseline,
Cheap chat.
like if you're going to launch a big sales campaign, it's
is going to change, like for Christmas sales or a big sale is going to change how your application is going to react to the public. How do you know what you're comparing yourself against?
That's a really good point. So baselines are seasonal, aren't they? Like what? But think about it, right? So in the US, they've got the concept of Cyber Mondays, right? And that's a seasonal baseline. So baselines aren't the same all the way along. Yeah, they can change. Yeah, so I think that's a really good point though. Is that when you're comparing against a baseline, the baseline needs to be relevant, right?
Because like in the insurance industry, like you have like Saturday's scenarios that you can see coming up, but you don't know if you have enough kit there to support. So like I understand your point, and it's a good point around you know when you have a problem versus your average down. But for those events when everybody's looking at you, how is your approach to handle those situations?
Yes.
That's a capacity planning job, not a problem fixing job.
Well, when you're in the trenches, it is.
Do you have a capacity planning tool for it?
Capacity planning should have sorted that out beforehand.
Like it's not
Please,
like
I
we
did
used
that.
to it's
Go
the
on.
idea of
The
problem.
capacity planning program.
It's good for service virtualization.
Yeah. And your capacity planning process should do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're absolutely right. All right, about being smart about baselines. Yes, absolutely. Yes, question.
Probably a few detailed questions I'd like to ask, but we're going for a while. How do you filter out what's important and what's not important in terms of the data?
Yeah, that's.
So we're going to make the data smaller. We're going to go away.
There's 100 Andrews in there that just goes through and dissects it.
Yeah, so look in terms of a general approach. So the baselining is really important, and once you've got a baseline, you can understand what's normal and what's not normal, and that helps to do a lot of filtering out. Right, if something is normal and it hasn't changed, then we can often say, well, okay, that's probably not an area that's a cause of a performance issue. And I think it's all about the normal and not normal. That for me is really what I've been doing, for years. So like Brad, for you, for instance, so you spend a lot of time doing performance testing of various releases that are coming through. So when you have a performance issue, do you look at what's changed?
Yeah, absolutely. And trending is a big piece now.
Yeah.
And looking between even releases of code within the release, have we introduced a degradation here? Can we pick it up earlier and resolve it rather than downstream?
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's a good point though, right? Because I think the whole thing is like a lot of thing for us is getting rid of the noise and working out what's changed and then focusing on that. Yeah.
And in the case of, suppose you had a customer that was Twitter.
Yes.
Now you know that their spikes are going to happen all over the place at random times when Michael Jackson dies or when some Kardashian thing happens.
Yes.
You know the spikes. You know that there is no norm.
Yes.
That's the point I'm getting at. So how would you go about reducing the amount of data you're collecting for an environment where there is no norm?
Yeah. That becomes much harder. So I think on one of the screen snapshots I had some bars of normal, slow, very slow, and the slow and very slow, that's kind of based on standard deviations. But and I've spent I've only had 6 months in AppDynamics, but I've seen enough applications to know when you go into an environment and when it's 99.8% normal and there are a couple of outliers, you go, oh, that's actually really easy to understand what's not normal. But when it's 60%, you know that there is something kind of crazy happening with the application load. Yeah, I think it's much more challenging. So, when you look at companies like Netflix, for instance, and they do massive scaling up and down of the cloud environment, right? What's normal for them, and they have massive changes that go on. I think it's not a what's the word? It's a non-trivial issue. Yeah. So what would you do?
What would I do?
Ignore.
I go in and think about it.
Yeah.
I'd define the ARMA process.
Something that mattered.
Sorry, John?
I'd define the ARMA or ARMA process for time series. We get the cycles. And also as far as collecting the data, I'd use factorisation techniques to collect every single thing but work out the patterns.
That assumes there is a pattern.
There's always patterns, there's always correlations between data.
The correlation isn't causation.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
this is the same thing. You need to know all the correlations, and when those correlations change, that's right.
automate that process so you actually know what everything is. And then you save those patterns, factorisation methods.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Basically, what we like to do is have a pretty intensive look at a pre-release of an application or something that's important to be tested. Run a tool like this against it. Then you start getting a feel for what kind of issues, whether it's garbage collection, JVs, whether it's number of threads, number of database connections. So the idea is try to build a profile of the kind of issues you've got to experience, and then you collect the appropriate metrics for that. I think the initial one, you've got to turn on everything available for that short period of time, do the analysis, and then we start getting smarter in regards to what are the key metrics we want to collect. I think to your point in regards to smart data, you can only collect everything in the hope of we may need it at some stage, or you do the work up front and work out, well, what other situations are we experiencing? Let's collect the data for that. And if you find that in your analysis you need more, turn those extra bits on as you go. So I think that's the upfront intellectual work as compared to the lazy approach, which is just collect everything we should be running.
Yeah. Yep. But I know, like I often fall into the trap of just wanting more and more data, right? And so I think it's a natural instinct that we have to fight, instead of saying, okay, what can you collect? Collect everything, give me it all. I think just thinking that there are other ways of doing this and smarter ways of doing this, and looking at the deviation away from normal, I think it's it's something that we always need to kind of keep in mind, I think. Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. So the whole aim was really just to spur a bit of debate, really, but to really get you thinking about it, and also to introduce you to the team.